Welcome to another exciting episode of Bumping Into Walls here on CJSW 90.9 on that FM dial. Of course, what this show is about living with blindness and low vision. And yes, that means living with absolutely no sight, nothing. I am your host, Dave, along with Anthony.
Hey.
And welcome to it. Welcome to another month. I tell you, these months just keep flying by. I think last few months we had a weekly snowstorm.
Yeah, we just had one last week, actually, and it was so bad that they were telling you if you didn't have to go anywhere, and you had to go out that day during the snowstorm to an appointment, and you called me and said, if you don't have to go anywhere, just don't.
Yeah,
so I stayed home until later.
Yeah, you did, and good thing that worked out for you. I tell you, some of that... You know, they say April showers bring May flowers, but, you know, what do April snowstorms bring?
They're scary if you ever get into an accident because you don't know what's happening. Your car just starts sliding, and if it's hitting stuff, which has happened, you're not sure what it's hit. So a lot of times there's the shock value of, oh my gosh, is everyone okay in the vehicle?
Right. Now, Anthony, my question, did you see what happened?
You know what? I actually had a call when I was talking to Access that day, and it wasn't something she meant. She just used the term. And the accident had just happened. And she says, and because probably says this to every accident person, she said, what did you see?
Oops.
And I found out recently, now we have a door-to-door service for the disabled in this city called Access Calgary, which is a great service. We're the number one in the country. I know, I looked it up. Basically, what happens is you go door to door. So you go from here to from a specific door at MacEwan Hall to our houses, which means we don't have to get off, transfer buses and trains and do whatever else, right?
That's right.
But sometimes we have to go pick up people, and that's just the way it goes. So it was a Sunday, and I don't know why I called Access. I was in shock. So I did. And she said, well, what did you see? What hit you? Where have you been hit? My thinking was totally different than what actually happened. So I think sometimes because of the only fact that they have one category called visually impaired, which I would love to see changed, but here's why it isn't. They told me at customer service, people do not like the term blind applied to them. So someone has some sight, and as soon as they hear the word blind, they go, no, I am not blind, I have sight. Even though it may only be shadows, light and dark, they like that feeling of having it, which I respect. I totally respect it because I've never had any. So and I'm hoping they change the category, but as of now, they only have the one category, so I think that's what we're going to have to deal with.
You know, and that's the way it is. Of course, I'm literally blind, or I don't see anything. There's no light perception. I think the medical term is NLP. I think.
You're legally blind.
Oh, yes, that too.
You're legally blind.
Yes, which is different, which means I do have some sight.
Which means the blind police aren't going to come give you a blind ticket. Okay, there's my bad joke for the day, everybody.
Okay, yeah. No, but no, seriously. There are different categories, and it's frustrating.
It can be.
You know, and in terms of course, with blindness in general, it's, have you heard anything? We did something about myths in terms of blindness.
Yeah, actually, I did.
A while back. But, what about, anything new in that category?
Actually, there is. I was in a cab, which is me most of the time.
Yep.
And we had picked up somebody. And I don't quite know how the conversation got started. And it was really strange because she said to me, well, I have a relative in Kenya. You might know her. Now, with the internet, that's a possibility, right?
Yes.
But the thing that made me kind of go really strange is she said to me, oh, well, you probably know that she's not your color. And I looked at her and I went,
what?
Okay. We had a good long drive. And by the end of the drive, we'd come to the conclusion that I didn't know her cousin, but because her cousin happens to be blind. Now, there is a large blind community, guaranteed, but we don't know everyone. We know some of them, and we know some of them by reputation.
Well, it's funny, as I found out years later, you knew my cousin who was blind. So, I mean, that's, what are the odds?
You
right?
never know, right?
I never knew you at the time.
No.
Right?
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
that, again, what are the chances? Of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
my cousin's no longer with us, but I mean, that's crazy.
Well, the other thing I find is one of the drivers was telling me that in his country, he'd never met a disabled person before. And in many cases, in some countries, he said, the disabled people are looked after by their families. There is no government assistance. There is no, some of them are actually, in some countries, even begging on the streets, I'm told. How true that is, I can't verify it, but it's a possibility. So maybe that's getting better, and I sure hope it is, because somebody said to me one day, "Where's your tin cup?" I'm in a cab, and I'm going,
Huh? Seriously?
okay, yes,
Wow.
really.
What is with you getting these interesting trips?
Because we pick up folks from a lot of these different agencies, and sometimes you get workers that have maybe never met a blind person before, and you get some interesting. I don't get very many of these questions, guaranteed, but when I get them, they're memorable. Because I'm driving on a Monday, going home, it's usually an hour and a half before I even hit my house, because I got to go from south to north.
Yeah, that's a long trip.
So you're going to get all kinds of potential people in a car or a van, so you just never know.
So,
Right.
you know, I know in the community you've had some successes. Let's say going on a Friday to bowling.
Yeah.
You'd whack into signs
Oh, gosh,
outside
yes.
of one of
We
the
had a
retailers.
store. We
Yep.
had one of the retailers in the mall.
Yep.
The problem with the sign was it was literally, because not everyone does this. I use the wall of the mall as a way to get through the store entrances, because some of our folks have a hard time getting across the entrances, and
Right.
that's how I get across it. I found a better way to do it. But this sign would literally, you'd hit it. Thank goodness it was soft, because had it been hard, there would have been a lot of concussions happening. So I would go into this store for about 2 months. I walk into this big store, and I just listened for people, and I headed for first counter I saw. And trust me, bookstores aren't the easiest place to find counters in, because there's shelving and everything else anyway.
There is, yes.
So one of our bowlers finally got torqued, because we have some folks that are just getting used to being blind, and they aren't too sure how to use their cane well yet. So they could walk into this piece of challenging equipment and hurt themselves. So he walked over to a security guard and said, "Hey, between like 11 and 3, can you not make sure these signs are gone, like in the store? They can't be literally outside the store, outside the entrance in everyone's way." Well, darned it if it didn't happen. It's still there, but it's not as big a challenge. And so sometimes you have to advocate, but don't do it in a sense of, "I'm frustrated, this sucks." Do it in the way that our friend did and say, "Hey, this is why it needs to happen."
No,
So-
and our friend, I wouldn't want to meet him on a bad day.
Oh, no.
He's a pretty good
He's a good
advocate.
dude. He's a good guy and a heck of a bowler.
Yep.
But yeah, he solved the problem for everyone, not just for him, but for everyone.
No.
So I was very glad that he did that, because I was tempted to call the mall office myself, but he saved me the headache. So, But yeah, that's a challenge not everyone has. See, those with dogs don't have it, because the dog will take them right around said obstacle. Canes don't always do that. They just tell you they're there.
Oh yeah, canes are. I find
Canes are great.
They're great, but then again, there's been issues with guide dogs.
Oh, yes. But
And, we haven't talked about guide dogs in a long
while.
time, but that may be something we may touch on in a future episode.
Well, one of the things that they're doing now, there is a rideshare program that there's a rideshare company that is now allowing guide dogs in their cars, but you have to identify as being blind. Again, we have to prove our disability yet again.
Yeah.
So the law states in Alberta, and I looked this up, the law states you do not have to tell a public vehicle driver that you have a service animal. But most people that I know that have service animals, and I do not, most people that do it as a courtesy. So when you call for a cab, or you try to use the apps, and some of the apps at the smaller companies don't have the room to put that information.
Right.
So unfortunately, that can cause a whole bunch of challenges. But this company is trying to solve the challenge, because what would happen is you would call said company, you'd make a deal with them, and the driver would drive right by you, and you as a blind person wouldn't even know. So then you try again, and the more you try, you could be there for hours.
Right.
So now they've got a deal with this company CNIB has talked to this company and said, hey, can you do this? And they have. I don't know how successful it is. I have a friend that uses Uber, and lately they haven't had much of a problem. I wouldn't touch it because most of these companies are, well, I won't be discriminatory here, but I will say that many of these companies are using folks that are just doing it as a part-time way to make extra cash, whereas the professional drivers in the world, like taxi drivers, actually get training, which is good to have. So I'm glad that these companies are starting to kind of do that because, we are here and we are part of the community. So,
and what about people who wave at you?
I don't even know they've done it.
Yeah, I've witnessed. We were at a just here, and you had cash. So you gave the person, not here at the station, but we were.
You were downstairs.
We were downstairs.
We were in Mac Hall.
Yeah, we were in Mac Hall, and you gave the person cash, and of course this person. Was trying to show you the change back. And of course, you're there with your hand out.
Thinking it's going to get put in my hand.
You might need to put it in your hand. It all worked out.
It did.
Funny little things like that. Or you could be like me.
But you could be really ticked off about it, or you could just laugh. Because that's, we see this all the time.
Or you could be like me and show you how to bowl.
Oh, no, that was funny. That was funny.
Again, folks, I do forget who I'm talking to sometimes. I really do. And and Anthony was trying not to laugh.
I was like, I don't know what you're doing, but I think you're trying to teach me how to bowl. One of the volunteers the week later said, hey, I wonder if he's going to teach you to bowl again. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And he just laughed.
I caught myself. It's kind of funny.
But one of the things I'm noticing is we get a lot of people who actually know what a white cane is, but we also get the people who try to play hopscotch over said white cane. Instead of stopping and seeing what direction we go, they try to jump over the cane.
I've never seen that.
Oh, I have. Now, here's the thing that we were trained, at least I was trained when I used said cane. Keep your path, don't change it, because you don't know what the other person's going to do. You can't see them. Just like when people come up on you, and they'll say, hi, and you have no freaking idea if they're talking to you or they're talking to someone else. And they think because, well, Joe has a great memory, I have a great memory, but if I haven't seen someone in, say, 10 years, unless I see them in particular places, like if I saw, for example, our station manager in a different location other than here, and my brain wasn't turned on that day, I probably wouldn't know who he was, just because I know he's always here at this place. But if I met him somewhere else, I might have it. Well, probably not, because we see him all the time. But sometimes people will wave, and they think, why aren't you recognizing me? You're a snob, which isn't the case. I didn't even know you waved. Some people with sight can't even see it. Some folks that have vision loss can't see it. So.
Well, it has happened to me a few times where I'm walking along the street. Not so much now. We used to live in Cochrane.
Yeah.
I walked down the street. Oh, I honked at you, and how come you didn't see me? Well, one, I wasn't probably paying attention.
Well, not only that, but as someone who's honking, someone who hears honks, you really don't know why they're honking. And since you can't really see inside the car, you're not sure who's honking. It's different if you can see. So I can see where that could be, a bit of a challenge.
No, yeah.
If they opened their window and said, hey, Dave, it's whoever, then that would work. Although,
that's right.
That could be totally cool.
That's right. Yeah,
that's how I would have solved that problem.
I think, yeah. I mean, it's funny how that works, but seriously. And, funny little things. What about, accessibility? We've touched. Well,
yeah, we have.
We haven't touched on that, really, per se. In terms of, like, those accessible washrooms.
Oh, they're great. I never thought they were, but they're great.
The one near the downstairs, near the, I think it's the Cinnabon. Anyway, Spicy Bread Company.
With the button like you say I can't miss.
Yeah, well, you can't. It's huge.
Well, you can't if you know it's there and you feel it. But if you walk by it,
yeah. That's right. But, I mean, of course, everything is right there all in one. So you're not, like, trying to find the hand dryer.
No.
Or, the sink. So, I mean, those are great. I think there's a few, but that's the best one I find.
The nice thing about them, and most people will say, and I had this said to me once, no, you can't use it. You're not in a wheelchair.
Ah, yes. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Most definitely.
And I didn't realize that. Now, a lot of bathrooms, I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of bathrooms, if you have a service animal and you try to get a service animal into those little teeny weeny stalls, which is why I think those large ones were put in play, you will not, because you're not going to leave your dog outside the stall and hope no one steals it, right?
No kidding.
So, yeah, it's... I love the fact now, even today, we dropped by to do what we had to do. And one of the things I noticed, and I understand why it happened. So you push the button, the door opens. Now, my first reaction is to close said door. Well, it wouldn't. And I realized, as I'm waiting for said door to close, that it does that because someone in a wheelchair isn't going to be able to maybe reach up and close the door. So it gives them time to get into the bathroom, which I thought was a great idea. I wish we had more of them. I heard something on the radio one day. Zach Weeks, who is I call him an influencer, and he's not Dave's buddy, but I call him that because Dave sort of sent me toward him. He's a very good advocate.
I follow him on Facebook, actually.
Yeah, so if you guys want to check him out, he puts videos out. I'm not sure of his disability, but I'm not sure of that. But he was on one of the commercial stations one afternoon. They do that to fill space once in a while. And he was really good at explaining that there are a lot of places that still don't have accessible washrooms. You go to a bar or a restaurant, and he said he literally had to hold it until he got home because he couldn't get into that said bathroom. Now, some of it is because the buildings are older, and I respect that. You can't totally rebuild a building. But some of them, the simple thing that got in his way was a set of stairs. There was no ramp to be had anywhere. And there was no elevator. Now, in a 2-story building, you're not going to put an elevator in there, maybe. But I like the fact that we see more of these bathrooms, but they're not as widespread as we think.
No, they're not.
I mean, in a big place like here at U of C, yeah. But if you go to your local wherever, you're not always going to see that, which is really sad because...
Yeah, I think the malls are pretty good at having some.
But one of the things I noticed is some of the stores are not allowing people to use their bathrooms anymore.
Oh, isn't that a pain?
Yes. So I always joked.
We're not going to mention names.
No, I joked with someone and said, well, I don't know if I'd actually do this, but I'd really like to just leave something behind. But I wouldn't do it. But I sure would, And the reason they do it, this is what they were told. Now, they basically came back with a quote and said, we don't want to have to, the cleaning takes extra time. There's too many other things that are happening. But what they don't realize is it's not just disabled people this affects. This affects seniors. And what it'll do is it'll affect people who won't go to the stores. They want these stores to stay open, but they can't because people are going to stay home. If they know that bathroom's accessible, they're going to stay and be there. I only heard this a couple days ago, and I'm like, ooh, wow.
Well, and that's interesting, but not all places.
No, not all places. Some of the larger
one
places.
In particular I can think of. Again, we're not going to mention that's the case.
Yeah.
You have to buy a water or whatever.
Yes, you do.
What a pain in the royal.
Well, not only that, but they also give you a code. Now, how in the heck would a totally blind person manage that? So he'd have to have a really good understanding of the pad. Most pads are okay, but you might get a pad that's backwards. Most pads are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 0. But
that's right.
Not always. I mean, even at the hotel where the Edmonton Red Arrow used to stop, they give us a code, and it changed every time we went in there.
Yeah, that's another thing that sort of changed around a little bit. I was telling you off air.
Yeah.
They stop off at the South Gate LRT on the south side of that.
But here's the bigger challenge. They now want us to go get a government ID. Now, we have a CNIB card.
That's right.
It is something that they are allowing us to use this service. But ever since they've been bought by another larger company, there have been a lot of changes. And so they're expecting us, who may not have the money to do this, to go buy a, $60, it'll last for 3 years, so that's not too bad. But to come up with that.
It's 5 years.
Okay, that's not so bad then. If you know that you're going to have to do that every 5 years, that's fine. But it would be really nice if the CNIB card actually meant something. The Canadian National Institute for the Blind gives some of us specialized cards that prove we're blind.
They're basically ID cards.
Yeah, but this company doesn't think they're legitimate, even though it has all the information they need.
No, and here's the thing. Apparently, you need that for flight too.
Okay,
so it's
that's
not
fine.
Just them, but also, they have it on file because they need that, or so we're going to make us fill out paperwork again. So they do have said card on file, but yeah, I wish it carried a little more weight.
And I would love to. I didn't get a chance to make some phone calls to talk to the people we need to talk to see if we could get some sort of a comment. But again, now just for your information, and this is really sad, CNIB Alberta only has there's two sides to the CNIB. There's the vocational side, which take care of all the stuff that people need to learn, and that's being paid for by our government. And then there's the CNIB, I forget what it's called, but it's more of it covers everything else. So that side only has 15 employees for the whole province of Alberta. So I can imagine how overwhelmed a lot of those employees are. So,
no, for sure.
And I was shocked when I heard that.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, it would be great if that card was a national card that basically, because you can get on a bus in Calgary or a bus in Vancouver and use it. Or even your access in Edmonton, your disability of transit there, your disability adult transit service there, you can use your CNIB card because it's accreditation that they gave us, but they won't do it here. We don't know why, but they just won't. Now, I understand maybe because of the fact that we have a great system here where you can get a bus pass for a reasonable price, so that's fine. But maybe because we have a bigger system than Edmonton's, I don't know. But it's really sad when that accommodation isn't kind of put forward, when we know it can be done.
It's funny, and last time we traveled, speaking of traveling, so usually you can request to be pre-boarded.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that didn't happen when we left the city of so I did phone in and complain about that.
And what was their response?
Well, apologies, of course.
Okay, but what are you going to do to fix the problem for next time?
When I left from Edmonton, it was way better experience, and the driver was excellent. So, I mean, it's, again.
There's a company that's they closed down one of the offices here in the city. So now I have to go all the way downtown, which is fine. That's just the way it is. But, I mean, companies, when they get bought out, the people who buy them don't always think, what's the culture like now? How can we keep that culture? They break everything that works in many cases, which is sad to see. But again, we're not the ones getting paid the big bucks. So
no, for sure. But hey, all in all, my last trip, it went well.
Right on.
But they don't have wine service. I joke, ha ha.
Oh, no. Ha. I don't want to drink wine. You just have to watch the Edmonton Oilers play hockey.
Hey, I did. Well, they lost last time.
That's why you could whine.
But really, I think. What else? We're it's amazing. We talk so much,
and then
off air. Hey, we should use that for the show.
Yeah.
But I was thinking also you almost got ran over one time when we were bowling. You just about got ran over. You were lined up at the lineup.
Yeah.
Oops,
someone decided
that must have been scary.
Someone decided that they were gonna. And no one caught them, and if it hadn't been for the person I was with, they caught it, and they basically said, dive, and I just basically kind of rolled out of the way, and this person wasn't using the sight they had, because, usually you can, it's not always possible to do this, but sometimes you can hear, but there's enough people sitting there that if this person had asked and said, hey, is there somebody up there, they would have said, oh, yeah, there is. But they didn't, and it was one of those moments where you could either lose your collective marbles, and I did talk to that person, and they kind of lost their marbles on me. I'm like, well, okay, fine. Just be aware that if someone gets hurt, the organization that we're with is responsible for that, and their insurance isn't going to like it. So just be aware.
Luckily, no one was hurt.
No one was hurt, so that was good. But, it was lucky that the person kind of realized, oh, okay.
It sort of must be frustrating because I'm sure you had your white cane out again, and I'm surprised that person didn't hurt themselves on said cane. Because that can happen if you're not.
Yeah. Actually, it was just when I was lining up to pick up something, and this gentleman cut in front of me, and basically, it was all over a chocolate bar. So this gentleman saw the chocolate bar, and he's developmentally delayed, I guess. I've talked to him afterwards, and he was kind of upset when he realized what happened. And I said, "Well, you just can't do that, man. You got to use the eyes God gave you. Mine are broken, so you got to use them." And we had that, and I've never had a problem since. But that's scary because if you break your cane, and I actually had heard this happen. We had a person coming to one of the things I go to, and her cane snapped right in the middle of her walking there.
It doesn't have the bona fide snap.
No, you just suddenly can't use it because the bottom part just stops working. It just goes flop, flop, flop.
Oh, yeah. No, never mind. Yeah, that's the bungee cord they have in it or whatever.
Yeah, it keeps it together, right?
That's right.
And if that snaps, then you kind of are scooped until you can. I mean, she got to class that day, but then she never came back. And I assume that could have been a major reason. Don't know.
Yeah, that's too bad when that happens. I've had it happen.
I've had it happen too.
And really, they can. Well, I've had it where the bungee went right in when I was trying to change the cane tips.
Yeah.
And that probably happens more often than people realize. And it's a pain.
The biggest challenge that we have, and I know we've discussed this before, is the fact that you've got multicolored canes. The top part is a different color than the bottom. So most people don't see the bottom, maybe. They might see the top. So if you got a Calgary Flames colored cane, people think it's whatever the heck the color for the Flames is. I don't know. I don't know color very well.
No, but there are different color tips, like fluorescent. I think fluorescent yellow or whatever I've
That
seen
doesn't help.
For the roller. No, but...
It could help people see you, maybe.
That's right. I mean, there's a standard white tip that I've seen, of course.
Yeah, there would be.
It's still red and white.
Yeah.
I would say, red, white, and blue. Yeah.
No, that's American.
Yeah,
the Americans even have the same category that we have. They don't have blue on theirs. So.
No. So it's the same type of standard.
It would
But you
be.
can change out the tips
You
a
can.
little bit.
You can change out the top part, too, if you want. You can buy a cane. There's a company, the actual producers have said canes make them. So you can get any color you want.
Aside from mobility cane, I've seen support canes.
Yeah.
Again, same type of
cane.
So it's not a mobility cane like the ones we have. But again, it does signify you as blind. I heard of another one. Was it the Checkered Eye program? I don't know if
you wear a pin.
You can wear it, and it says low vision,
which is
so
great.
It's another way of identifying as
visually impaired.
Yeah, I was going to say if you're totally blind,
you are blind. There is no change there.
There's no changing that one. But for me, I thought, what a perfect. Because I can't always bring my white cane because if I have my walker like any other day.
No, you haven't got enough hands unless you're an octopus. So if any of you are just tuning in after, I don't know, having your breakfast or whatever, and you're not sure what you found, we are bumping into walls. And we bring the vision loss community's issues and basically their experiences to you. And by the way, if you don't catch us live right now, that's fine because we have an app. And Dave, can you explain the app? Because you've actually used it.
The CJSW app. Just download it from the Play Store or
the Apple Store.
Apple Store, thank you. You can find all the content on...
Well, the 109 other shows we have. Just type the name of the show you want in there and
that's basically
subscribe to it, and you won't miss an episode.
It's a very good one. And you know what? Speaking of which, we are out of time for this episode. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in and who's taken the time to listen for the last half hour, and hope to catch everyone who is listening next month. So, Anthony, of course, as always... pleasure, and
you bet.
We'll
see you next
catch
month.
up next episode.